Hello, everybody. Good evening. Hello to Dead Bullhead. He's in the chat room ahead of everybody else, I guess, tonight. And so, welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm feeling much better than I did on last night's show. I was able to get some sleep, not as much as I would have liked, but more than I have been getting. So, um, I feel a little bit better. You can adjust something over there. Okay. So what is this? Of course, if you're new. And if you're not, here's a reminder. This is the Saturday Spiritualist with your good buddy Spider. And every week we tackle a spirituality to dive into and to get the ins and outs of and try to understand how it works and whether it can apply to us in making ourselves spiritually better. Or we look at different methods or instruments or tools or practices that we can use to again make ourselves more spiritually improved, I suppose. Now, this week is kind of an interesting one, and I'm not sure how far afield I'm going to go with it. But it's kind of one of those things that if you're interested in this kind of stuff, it'll make you think, which is good because it's intended to be to help you think, but not really to be provocative necessarily. It's not like let's talk about provocative topic because that really makes you think. It's not something like that. Instead, we're going to discuss the things that you want to keep in mind if you're going to build a spiritual belief from scratch, from the ground up. Now, let's say you've looked at everything that's out there, which is not absolutely everything, because there's so many different things out there that it's almost impossible to gauge every single religion and spiritual path that exists in the world today. But let's say you've taken a good look at what's out there to the best of your ability, and you thought, well, this one's got some good stuff, this one's got some good stuff, but none of these aren't really me. I don't really feel spiritually fulfilled from doing this, which is kind of how I felt after investigating a lot of things, and I came very close, as I mentioned in the left hand path video. I mentioned that I had come close to considering joining the Temple of Set, but it's just and in the end it still had things that were just not me, that were like, I don't know, I'm not into the whole like Prince of Darkness kind of thing, even if it's not something that you actually believe in. I'm not into the whole image deal. I'm not into like the religious like Christ, Jehovah kind of thing either, which is not to say that it's a bad thing if you believe it or anything else. It's just it's not for me. So I had asked myself a lot of fundamental questions, and this is kind of going to be, pardon me, I've got an itch in my nose. Ugh. This is going to be sort of a blueprint that I used when I was going through my spiritual, I don't want to say spiritual awakening, because that makes it sound like I'm super enlightened when I'm not really. I have ideas. I've done some things that have improved my spiritual life, I think, and I think they might be able to improve yours. So I don't want to call it an awakening. I guess it's when I first got onto a path that brings me clarity. Okay, it makes things make sense for me. So you've looked at Wicca, you looked at Islam, you've looked at Buddhism, you looked at all these things, and you said, well, you know what? This has a good idea, this has a good idea, this is a good idea. But they're not me. So where do I start? Where do you start? And it's very important to consider some of these things. One of the first things you're going to do is, if you want to have your own homebrew spirituality, the first thing, like before you even consider everything else, is you should make sure that you focus on tailoring it for you. Okay, you don't want to be like, okay, I'm going to make a new religion and then I'm going to go spread it to everybody, and everybody's going to join my new church and my new cult and my new this and my new that. And don't think like that. That's big. Don't think big. Don't think real big like that. Think small. This is for your benefit. If you eventually meet other people who are along the same thought lines as you, who are open to some of the same questions that you have, and by all means, share your opinions and maybe get together for studies and things like that, and maybe go from there. But if you're trying to spiritually improve yourself, the focus should be on yourself. It shouldn't be focused on trying to change the world. It shouldn't be focused on trying to convert other people to your way of thinking. It shouldn't be anything like that. It should be focused on you first. Everything else can come later if you really want to do that kind of stuff. I would recommend against it, but first, look inside, look at yourself. And there's fireworks outside for some reason. I couldn't tell if they were fireworks or gunshots in my neighborhood. Classic game, fireworks or gunshots. But the first thing that I would do after making sure you understand that you have to just stay small, stay focused on yourself, is look at what you believe. Does what you believe revolve around a particular figure or a force or an idea? Is there some central thing that anchors the whole thing together? There doesn't have to be. But if there is, what is it? Define it. Think it through. Do you believe that there's a deity that you're following? There's nothing wrong with that. If that's what you believe, that's great. If so, who is the deity? What do they want? Are they intelligent? Do they actively do things in your life to your belief? Are they involved in your life in any way? And this is on a theoretical, metaphysical level. Okay, if you're hallucinating things, by all means, you should probably make sure you get some help just in case. You don't want to have things like, well, I think you should murder that man over there. It's for your own good, Check to make sure you don't have any mental illnesses. And that's not a dig. That's not an insult. We all should probably check. We all need a reality check sometimes. We all have character flaws. We all have our things going on in our brain. And we might want to ask ourselves, if we start thinking we're hearing voices and having things communicate with us, the first thing we probably want to look into is make sure that we don't have some kind of medical problem going on that's causing that. Just in case. Just in case. You don't want to go and be like, I think I'm crazy. Can you check my brain? Just make sure you don't have any chemical imbalances, things that might make you think things that aren't real. If you're past that point and you're confident that, hey, you know what, there's this higher power and I believe it wants what's best for me. Okay. Find that to yourself, to your satisfaction. And decide how central that is to everything else you're doing. If you decide that you're going to be worshiping a goddess of the forest or a goddess of the moon or something like that, then say, okay, how do I best personify what they would want? What are their values? What are they asking? What is it about them that drew me to that thought to begin with? And how does that improve me as a person? And are they asking me to do something that's dangerous? And if so, is it dangerous to me, or is it dangerous to me and others, or is it just dangerous to others? Because you don't want to base your own personal philosophy on things that are dangerous or disruptive towards other people's own philosophies. That's one of the problems with some of the various left-hand stuff. There's a lot of people on there who are basically strict atheists, but they have all the trappings of all this, like the Satanism and all this other kind of stuff. And they do that just to provoke people because they think it's helpful. They think, oh yeah, if I'm provoking people, it'll make them think, it'll make them question themselves. Okay, but is that necessary? Is that really necessary? How is that helping you personally? take a serious look at it. And if you're looking at a higher power and it's not an intelligent being, like let's say, oh, I deify nature itself. It's not a thinking thing. It just does what it does. It exists, but I worship it because to me it's divine. Okay, so define how you do that. Are you someone who sees a spirit in everything, like the kami from Japan, or are you perhaps vegetarian or vegan because can't you don't want to take life or condone taking life, that kind of thing? Are you strictly a carnivore because that's what happens? I'm not going to add. I'm not going to throw in any justifications for anything. I'm not going to take any moral stands on any of this kind of stuff. That's all personal for you folks. I'm not going to tell you that eating meat is bad. I'm not going to tell you that being vegan is bad. I'm not going to tell you, whatever. It's your personal thing. And that's the other thing to keep in mind, that this is all personal for you. Once you've established what it is that this central idea is for and what it expects of you, if anything, then you translate that to daily life. You say, okay, well, what do I do on a daily basis that will honor the wishes or the example of this central figure? Is there a daily prayer you have to do? Is there a mantra? Is there a specific meal you have to eat every day or every other day or every week or whatever? Is there a specific holiday you have to observe? Is there a time where you have to, like Islam, where you have to stop what you're doing, face Mecca and do your prayers? And this all sounds like you're building something kind of strict and kind of like boom, 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 but it doesn't have to be that either. This can be as free flow and as free form as you like. It can be as simple as, hey, you know what? Sometime every day I just need to stop and think and be like, ground myself with nature. Go out, put your feet in the grass, ground yourself with nature. If you have a nature deity or idea as nature being divine, then you have to stay connected to it. Things that make sense. There's a lot of, and I don't want to act like I'm being harsh towards it. I know that there's, everybody's got their problems. But if you look at things like some of the early the pre-Christian writings in the Old Testament, the early Jewish writings that then led to Christianity in the New Testament, they've got stuff like don't eat shellfish and don't get tattoos and don't get this. And at the time, those were all for health reasons. They wanted you won't get very far if your worshipers are sick and they're bringing diseases into your temples and things like that. The people at the time didn't have a way to preserve shellfish or to remove all the parasites or whatever from them before they ate them. Same thing with pork. The big thing with Jewish people and Islam really is that pork can carry more parasites and more diseases and things if it's not cooked right. You can't eat it raw, not like you can eat some beef raw. It's not great, but you can. And people eat medium rare steaks and things like that. But you can do that with shellfish. Shellfish, I think you can eat raw, but you have to prepare it a certain way, like oysters and things like that. You can't just, because it'll make you sick. I don't know. I'm not a fan of oysters or that kind of stuff, so I don't know exactly how you prepare an oyster. I don't want to know. But it was don't do these things because you will get sick. It'll kill you potentially. But nowadays we have refrigeration, we have gas ranges, we have charcoal cooking, we have all these, we have ways to cook things and to stop things from being unhealthy. Tattoos, we won't poison our skin because we have needles that are more precise and more clean. They've been sanitized. We have sanitizing equipment, We have all these things that those old rules don't really apply because they weren't meant to be something that are holy edicts. They're meant to keep you alive. And you'll notice that they don't have those kinds of rules in things like the New Testament because it was looking towards the future. It was looking towards the future. And just keep in mind, you want to have, you don't want things to be strict. You don't want things to become dogma. And you don't want to have anything that kind of wouldn't make sense 5, 10, 15 years down the road. Okay. So choose some things to do on a regular basis. Perhaps some ritual behavior is what I would call it. Something, things that'll help keep you on track, and things that aren't going to become a ho-hum like, oh yeah, I have to recite my Hail Marys every day, blah, blah, blah. If it's boring, it's not helping you. If you think it's boring, it's not helping your spirit. It's not helping you become spiritually fulfilled. From there, you should think about, because this is all ideas and this is all, things that go on in the brain. Does this spirituality require me to use any sort of instruments, any physical implements? Do I have to use a particular kind of cup during religious spiritual things? Do I have to have things that are symbols? Like with Wicca, you have a lot of symbols. You have the rod, and you have the wand, and you have the knife, and all these things. And they're not always used for anything. They're more symbolic than anything else. And they all have stories behind them. Does your spirituality require this? And if so, what are these things? What are you going to use them for? As I've said before, the big thing is not to interfere with other people on the path. So you don't want to have anything that you're going to go out and cut people with or attack people with. I would recommend against having something that's straight up a weapon and only a weapon. Like a knife can be used for many things that aren't a weapon. A knife can be used to cut a lot of different things and for a lot of uses. A semi-automatic rifle is used for wounding and killing. And that's not a stance on gun rights or anything. I'm not taking a stand on that. I'm just saying that's what that tool is for. If you're hunting, it's to kill something so that you can eat it. That's what it's for. It's a killing tool. And you can't really, you shouldn't use that in a spiritually fulfilling way. Okay? At least in my personal opinion. I mean, you can always disagree with me. And I'm sure you make an interesting argument if you try to say otherwise. But yeah, I make sure it makes sense. Make sure it makes sense and it follows along with what you're trying to accomplish, and that it will help you become more spiritually fulfilled. If it seems silly, no reason to do it. Don't throw anything in there that's silly just for the sake of being silly. Now, I say that with a bit of a caveat, because there are people who are into absurdism as a spirituality, as a religion, which kind of is weird, but it makes sense to them because they get joy from these things. They bring in all this silliness and randomness and whatever because it brings them joy and it makes them happy and it makes them spiritually fulfilled that way. If that's what you're going for, that's fine too. If it makes sense, if your spirituality is one of joy and of mirth and of seeing the absurd, okay, anything goes. But if it isn't, then don't use anything that's going to make you feel silly. Don't put on a bunch of robes and chant and dance around in a circle if you feel silly. And that's if you continuously feel silly. If you think it'll help in the long term, you can get past that. At first I felt a little weird doing it, but now I feel pretty good. I think I'm okay. That's different. But if it's something that's just like, yeah, I put on this costume and I don't know, it doesn't seem to help, but it's funny. But if it doesn't help, don't use it. Don't clutter yourself with all these things that you don't need to improve your spirit. No point. If you're interested in things like tarot cards or crystals or runes or whatever, get them, learn how to use them. If you think that you should have them just because what you're doing seems kind of like, oh yeah, this fits in with the cool stuff, I want to have the cards, I want to have this, don't be a poser. Being a poser is not going to help you. Being a wannabe is not going to help you. Being someone who parodies things is not going to help you. Okay, only gather the tools that you think will help, not because they're cool or because they're edgy or because it would be funny or because it would piss off the Catholics, or it would piss off the Islamists, or it would piss off whoever. Don't go out of your way to piss people off just because. There's no reason. You're here for you, not for them. For you. This is for you to get better, not for them to get worse. Okay? No reason to be antagonistic. So after that, you should consider, does what I'm doing require a separate space? Do I need to go to a specific room where I have something set up, like an altar or a statue or just a quiet meditation spot? If so, make sure you have that space available. Make sure it's clean. Make sure it's set up to your liking. And don't just let people wander in, and poke at your stuff, because it's meant for a purpose. It's not meant to be some social spot people can just come over and be like, hey, let me see your Zen room. Hey, yeah, this is cool. Knocks over something. You don't need disruptive energies. You want it to remain focused for what you're using it for. Now, if you don't need a specific space like that, if instead you'd be like, you know what, no, I walk through my house and I say my mantra wherever I am, that's fine. Open space is great too. If you instead need the opposite, like if you need to be able to go to a wooded area or a big open field, make sure that kind of stuff is handy. Make sure you have access to these things. It shouldn't be a hassle. It shouldn't be a difficulty. It shouldn't stress you out. It should not make you frazzled and upset. Just, I gotta go find my wooded grove, but there's tourists and there's people and there's traffic, and find something closer or find something different. Do your best. None of this should be stressful. So you look at all this stuff, okay? You've got a central idea, a force or an entity or whatever, to anchor your belief down. You have ritual activity that you do, which can be as structured or as free-flowing as you like. You have ritual items, if necessary, and you have a ritual space. Once you have all of those things, and you've gone through this a few times, look at it from the outside, examine it, and say, are all of these making me feel better? Or does this feel like something that's work or a chore, or I actually feel worse or something? If it's not bringing you positive feelings in some fashion, go through the list again. Check each part and see which part of the chain, the link, is the weak link. And if you can, change it. If not, throw it out the window. You don't need it. You don't need existential junk. You don't need that. If reciting the Lord's Prayer makes you feel good about yourself, cool. If reciting it 5, 6, 7, 8 times in a row makes you feel good about yourself, legitimately, cool. If it doesn't, don't do it. No point. It's all about feeling more fulfilled as a person. And that sounds selfish, but it's not, because again, you're not going out and you're not forcing other people to do the same thing that you're doing. If you are, you should stop. You're not causing problems and interfering with other people's spiritual paths. As long as you're not doing that, there's no problems. Being selfish is doing things at the expense of other people. Like if you're a robot collector like myself, if you buy these Transformer toys and you see, oh, there's a new one, it's coming out soon, it's going to be on pre-order soon, and you set up 12 different accounts with different credit cards and different PO boxes, pardon me, and you wait. Oh, now I'm going to buy them all up. Boom, 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 buy them all up. They're all mine. Now I can resell them for double the cost. That's selfish. That's at the expense of other people. So, as long as you're not being selfish, you're fine. And focusing on yourself and your own spiritual well-being is generally not a selfish thing, as long as it's, again, not at the expense of other people. Now, that's not to say that it might not cost you things. If you're trying to become spiritually better, and you have a friend or a romantic partner or a family member, and they're just like, I don't like that you do this. I don't like it. I don't understand it. It's that or me. It's that or me. And it's not selfish to choose yourself over them, because they're giving you the ultimatum. They're giving you the ultimatum. And they're not tolerant of it. If it's something that isn't hurting them, if it's something that really, when you get down to it, doesn't affect them, other than maybe they're annoyed by it or they're irritated that you do it or something like that, then they really have no reason to tell you to stop. And if they're trying to force you to stop, the choice is clear. You let them go. It's a harsh truth. It's unfortunate. And maybe you've been friends with people for 20, 30 years, and they suddenly are like, hey, you know what? I don't like that you do that. You need to stop, or I can't hang out with you anymore. Then the answer is, okay, we can't hang out anymore. Because spirituality is all about improving yourself and also being accepting of other people's choices and how other people do things. And just because somebody's annoyed with you doesn't mean what you're doing is at their expense. If what you were doing was actually causing someone physical pain, that's different. You should look at what you're doing and kind of be like, maybe I'm in the wrong here. If you're doing something and then the other person causes themselves pain and then says, see, look what you're doing did to me. It made me cut myself. It made me hurt myself. That's manipulative. That's not fair to you. Cut them loose. You weren't harming them. They made the decision to harm themselves and used your activity as an excuse. Okay? That's abusive and manipulative. And people do it all the time. If you loved me, you wouldn't do this, or you do this, or you do this. That's abuse. That's manipulative. Don't fall for it. Okay? So, you've got those things that are working for you. Self-evaluate every so often, on a monthly, maybe yearly basis. And make sure it stays working for you. You can always add more things to improve it, and you can always take things away. There's nothing that says it has to be something that's written in stone, like the Ten Commandments or whatever, Hammurabi's Code or any of that kind of stuff. There's no reason that it has to be so static that it can't be changed and altered in important ways. Okay? A good spirituality is a living spirituality. And I don't mean literally like a living creature. I mean it's something that adapts, something that changes with the times in ways that are that aren't going to compromise the core beliefs, but that allow it to kind of exist with a changing world. Okay, because we grow as people, our ideas change, our attitudes change, and our spiritualities need to adapt with us. And that's brutally important because the big religions, the big ones, Islam, Judaism, Christianity, parts of Christianity like Catholicism and things like that, they don't change. They don't change. You're reading from the same things that are hundreds, thousands of years old, that are rules that were sent down thousands of years ago, that maybe some still apply, maybe some don't. I mean, Islam is the newest of the three, and it's still like the Quran cannot be changed. It cannot be altered, changed, reprinted in other editions outside of one single like accepted version. There's no deviation, and there will never be a deviation, because to do so is heresy and things like that. You know, it's blasphemy. These religions cannot change with the times. They can't carry you through a chaotic spiritual landscape. They can't do it. I mean, if you feel good being a Christian or being a Muslim or being a non-Jewish or a non-Hebrew Jewish person, because there are people who are Jewish in belief, but they're not by blood, which is, an interesting concept, and I don't want to get into that too much because that gets into a lot of kind of a weird area, but there are people. And if you're fulfilled that way, okay, that's great. Are you really? I mean, it's probably insulting and offensive for me to ask, and I can apologize, but I don't understand it. And nothing that you really tell me is probably going to help me understand it, unfortunately. Maybe I'm just dumb. I don't know. Maybe I'm just spiritually stupid, and all of this is a waste of time. But I think going from prehistory through the Middle Ages, through the Victorian Age, to now, I would think following the same set of ancient texts and ancient words, I don't think they could really apply so much. I just don't. So I'm just going to go on record. I'm just going to say that a good spirituality, a good spiritual belief is one that is adaptable, one that can be altered to fit your needs as you grow, as society grows. It's stagnation is bad. Stagnation is one of the worst things that can happen to a person or to a society. You get stuck and you never move forward. And I hate being stagnant. And I've caught myself many times over the last several years just getting into a rut, just getting into like it's just the same thing all the time, whatever. And it's not that it's a lack of excitement or it's a lack of things that I like. It's just sometimes you just get to a mindset where things are just the same thing all the time. And maybe that's good. Stability is good. Stability is good. Don't get me wrong. I don't mean we need to have big social upheaval and stuff like that, because we have plenty of that. We do have a lot of that going on. We could do with a little less of that, I think. But stagnation is not stability. Stability is not stagnation. Okay. Adaptability is paramount. It's life or death. If you don't adapt, you die, basically, on a spiritual level or a physical level or whatever. It's just how things work. So, and that's always been my main problem, other than some of the metaphysical things with the big religions, because I'm not into the whole supreme being sitting on a throne somewhere in some metaphysical world or universe that's next to ours or above ours or wherever. I'm not into that. I've seen too many things that don't square up with that. For me personally. And that's again, it I have a tendency to sound kind of harsh about that kind of stuff. But I don't want to say that I'm like crapping on Christianity or that I'm throwing all this stuff into the garbage and that anybody who believes it is bad. Because I don't believe that. I believe have the people have the ability to choose, and they have the right to choose. And as long as what you're doing isn't bothering me, what right do I have anything to say about it? If you go to church every Sunday, okay, great. Doesn't bother me. It's not like you're knocking on my door before you go be like, hey, time to go to church. We're going to church. See you later. And interrupting my sleep. Like, you don't care. I don't care. Great. Everybody's happy. Maybe not happy, but you know what I mean. So, okay. So to recap, if you've looked at a lot of different spiritual paths out there and you've decided, you know what, these just aren't working for me, it's okay to make your own. Follow this rough criteria. And again, I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert. I'm not telling you better follow it or you're going to get it wrong. This is all, my opinion based off of many years of study into things. And I think they're good ideas. I think they're good ideas or I wouldn't be telling you about them. If you don't think they're good ideas, shut off the broadcast and say, screw that spider. He's a big idiot. He's spiritually stupid, among other things. But if you think if it makes sense to you, then go ahead. Find a central belief in either a higher power or something that you can anchor everything to. Decide on ritual behavior that will help enhance your relationship to that. Choose ritual implements if necessary. And that also includes if you decide to do any sort of dietary requirements or anything. Like perhaps you think, you know what, because I'm doing this, I think I should be vegetarian, or maybe I should eat this food on this particular day or whatever. That's fine too. If it's a self-restriction, fine. If you're not subjecting like your entire family to it and trying to force your Thanksgiving meal to be something else, people are going to be kind of grumpy about that. Okay. But ritual behavior, ritual implements, and then if you need a space, if you need a ritual space to do that in. Okay. Those are the four big things. If I need to get all my fingers in the shot here, four big things to consider. And that's what I considered going through my little homebrew religion. Now, my homebrew religion is I'll go through it for you here. The central part of it, and this is going to sound really morbid and really dark, and it's not. It's going to sound like that, but I'll explain it to you. Yeah, there's a few actually. There's a few moon goddesses, and actually the word. Before I get into my thing, tangent. Thank you, Deadpool. Get me on a tangent all the time. The word sin that you hear all the time, sinners, you're doing sin. Sin, S-I-N, is the name of the Mesopotamian Sumerian moon god. And you'll notice Christianity is a sun god religion. They were enemies of the moon god religions. Don't follow sin. Get it? Don't follow the moon god. Sin. Ah, you learned something. But anyway, my central belief, again, it's going to sound kind of dark. Bear with me. My central belief is that everything ends eventually. We end. The universe ends. Everything ends eventually. And there's no reason to to really fight that in a way. Let me phrase this. It's kind of difficult. It makes it sound like I'm fatalistic, like, oh, we're all just gonna go, so might as well just not do anything. Everything ends, so there's no reason to worry about it. And that doesn't mean just live it up and run around and go crazy and whatever, and like, if I die, I die. No, it's just make the most of the time you have. It could be a little, it could be a lot. By the time you get to old age, maybe they've found a way to extend lifespans and you could live forever. Um, my internet is being weird, so it could be my internet here. I don't know. It keeps blinking and showing me the thing is just low. Let me see if I can. Yeah, I don't know. I checked it, but hopefully everything works out fine. But do everything that you can now. Don't worry about whether there's, I believe that we do get our energy returned after we pass on. I believe because energy can neither be just created nor destroyed, and our matter is merely just condensed energy anyway. So I think part of you will always live on again. I don't know if you're going to have any conscious thought about it. I can't say that you're going to be reincarnated particularly, but I think we go on basically indefinitely until the universe's self is done and exhausted of all its energy reserve. I don't worry about whether there's an afterlife because, that's not going to affect me now. What good is that going to do me now? I'm here now. What can I do now? Now is what's real right now. Everything ends. Worry about the now. Okay. That's the central part of it. And I see that the end of everything as like the central force. Everything has to end because you have to end things to create new things. Creation is made of destruction, basically. You can't build a new building without breaking something down first to make it. You have to smash rock to make bricks and mud and whatnot to make bricks. You have to cut down trees to make timber. You can't build things without first destroying something, unfortunately. So, it's a cycle. It's all cycles. Do I do any ritual behaviors? Not particularly. I have my own personal things. I do my numbers thing, like Deadpool. I ran his numbers for him earlier today. So I do things in patterns sometimes. Like when I'm cooking food, I'll cook things off of a basis of 9. If I'm cooking something in the oven for a half hour, I go up to 36 minutes because 6 plus 3 is 9. It's kind of a weird little thing that I do because 9 is like the number of completeness. 9 is when it's hit 9, it's enough. So I do that kind of stuff. But I don't have, I don't say prayers. I don't do mantras so much. I occasionally have been known to do affirmations, which we've talked about before. So I've recently, I haven't done those in a while, but I have been known to do those in the past. Ritual behavior. Ritual implements, kind of. I've done a couple of things that I would describe as an actual like ritual thing, and so I have like a plate where I can burn things, not like burn things like set things on fire. It's like if I have a candle or something, I put it on this spot, and this plate will make sure that none of the ash or the wax get anyplace else. So I guess you could say I do have some ritual things. I have a bell that I can intone. I have to be real careful with some of that kind of stuff because that gets back on my rule of if it feels silly, don't do it. So I have to structure things in a way where I don't feel silly because there's a lot of things that make me feel silly. I don't want to do it. I'm not a silly person. I get silly sometimes, I guess. I make people laugh, but I don't consider myself a silly person. And do I have a ritual space? Kind of. I go up into the attic when I do anything particularly ritual specific. But that's the only time I do that, and it's few and far between. But it's a quiet space. It's the only space where I can be 100%, like no cats, no people, no family members, no nothing, just me sitting up there, you know. So that's the long and short of it. Again, all of this is just my opinion after a long series of study. And just because I say I've studied it a lot, again, does not put me in the field of an expert. It doesn't make me feel like I'm somehow qualified to guide you on some particular journey or something like that. This is all up to you. Whatever you take from this is for your own benefit. You can come at me and be like, you know what, everything you said was just trash. Okay. If it's not going to help you, that's cool. Do something else. Not going to hurt my feelings. But if you come back and say, you know what, your comment about this really kind of made things stand out. I liked that. Let it help you. Take it, use it. If it doesn't work after a few weeks, a few months, just throw it back out and start again. But if it does, build off it. It's all about feeling more content, fighting back against all the daily just stress and the everyday stuff, all the practical things that are just constantly getting at us, like the inflation, the foreign wars, the politics, the crime rates, all this stuff. It just, and even just stuff at home, like if you've got clutter, or if like, oh, I can't get rid of this dust, or there's a fly in my house that's been bugging me for months, and little things. It's detoxifying the mind. It's a detox of the mind. It's a spiritual flush. And that's all really I'm saying. So if you're going to build from the ground up, my recommendation is to do it in the way that I present it. If that doesn't work for you, cool. Do something else. Adaptability. Adaptability is key. Never be afraid to get outside the comfort zone or to try something different. You never know. With that being said, this has been one of the longer videos that I've had in a little while. Not as long as the Jedi one. Man, the Jedi one was ridiculously long for what it was. But yeah, this has been one of my longer ones. Upcoming schedule. Tomorrow is Sunday. Nothing going on Sunday. Monday is the last episode of season 1 of Let's Talk About This, my audio only podcast, which you can listen to also after the fact on Spotify and iTunes and YouTube, wherever. It's primarily broadcast on Spreaker, which the link will usually go up sometime during the day. And I'm going to have Rob on, and we're going to talk about sports, and we're going to get into his favorite sporting events of all time, and he loves them. We're going to talk about, to my detriment, the Olympics. And I say that because normally I don't even, pay attention. Oh, the Olympics is on, whatever. But Rob loves them, and he will go on and on and on about the Olympics. He loves them. You want to see Rob be patriotic, that's where his patriotism is, in the Olympics. So Monday, final episode of season 1. Let's talk about this. Talking about sports. I'm not a sports guy either. I'm not. I have a couple sports teams that I kind of follow, I guess. I could care. I could care, really. I was more kind of when I was a kid, but I've never been good at sports, so I don't honestly care much about sports. But, it's a big thing in the world, so. Tuesday will be Twitch Tuesday, so I'll be playing something. Who knows? I'll probably still keep playing Dead Island 2 because that's all I've been playing. I'm trying to get through every single character, and there's 6 characters to play because I'm obsessive like that. I have a little bit of OCD. Or I might, who knows? I might play a little bit of Amnesia: The Bunker, which I haven't started yet. I have to make sure I get that before it's off of Game Pass. Who knows? I don't know. Wednesday is a free day, and all the days also, there's always a chance that Rob's going to be streaming, so keep an eye on his Twitch channel for extra gaming stuff. Sometimes I'll pop on a Wednesday as well. You never know. I might. Thursdays, the Uncanny Spirits Club. Friday, I will be doing This Uncanny Earth by myself, and I have an interesting one. We're going to be talking about what are the chances of a zombie apocalypse actually occurring, and if so, what is the most likely cause? Virus, chemical agent, energy from space? Who knows? We're going to get into it. We're going to talk about it. I'm going to rant and rave for probably an hour on that because I've been playing so many zombie things lately that I've got zombies on the brain. So yeah, that too. I remember that. I remember when that happened. The Florida guy. Oh my gosh, I thought for sure because there was something else like that happened, and then 2 weeks later something else happened, and then something else happened. I thought, there it is, 3 incidents. Here comes the zombies. Got to be ready. But so that'll be Friday, and then Saturday I'll have another episode of the Saturday Spiritualist, and I'm not sure what I'm going to talk about as per usual. I usually have to take most of the week to figure it out. Don't know. Maybe I'll get into another tools of the trade kind of thing and get into some implements or some tinctures that you can use. I don't know. But yeah, that's it. I hope you guys have gotten some good out of this episode. If you haven't, you can freely tell me to just go and myself. I won't mind. Okay, it won't hurt my feelings. But otherwise, I hope things are going well for you, and I hope you have a great night. And I will see you folks throughout the week. Thank you, Deadpool, for being in the chat. Thank you also, James Boggs, for popping in. I know you usually have to work on Sundays in the mornings, so you can't usually stay up for my show here, but it was nice to see you here supporting. I appreciate the support 100% all the time. Like, share, subscribe, etc. All those things. And finally, be well.